Welcome back to the Whiskey Review channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a whiskey I drink every day. It's the everyday drinking whiskey, and by that I mean that you can buy this whiskey and it's cheap enough for you to drink and enjoy every other day without worrying about how much every sip is costing you. And actually, it's a whiskey I would recommend to people who are getting into whiskey as well. It's called Woodford Reserve Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Now, it is a rye whiskey, but it's only got 18% rye in it. So it's not like, I wouldn't consider it to be like, you know, oh, if you like this, you'll like all rye whiskies, because it's only got 18%. 82% is made up from corn, 10% malted barley, just to start the process off. And then that is all put into a toasted oak barrel, which that toasted sort of flavor profile adds to the flavor of the whiskey, which I'll discuss with you as we actually get onto tasting it. But it's an interesting whiskey because I have quite a few friends who like, you know, Jack Daniels and Coke, and they say to me, oh, I really like whiskey. And I'm like, oh yeah, you like the taste of whiskey, that's cool. And no offense to anyone who likes Jack Daniels and Coke, that's absolutely fine. But I think we start out at that point, and then Woodford Reserve is something I recommend to people in a budget price range that they can then go and try to actually sort of get into exploring whiskies for themselves. And it's actually how I got into exploring whiskies for myself as well. So for that reason, it's quite near and dear to my heart. But firstly, there's a very interesting secret between British Woodford Reserve and American Woodford Reserve, which I've never had myself because I live in England. Maybe you can notice it if you look at the label if you're from the USA. You might notice a slight difference. So it's an interesting label anyway, and I always appreciate this. We've got the label batch, and then we've also got the bottle number. It's triggeringly close to bottle number 200, but hey, there you go. And then it's also got the ABV, which is 43.2% volume. Now, if you live in the USA, it's really weird because in the USA, it's 45.2%. And I think you guys actually get that percentage in a bigger bottle as well. Now, price-wise, in the UK, you can buy this between £30 is a good price and lower. I've seen it as low as £23. In the USA, you can get it for about $30 to $35, which is also a good price. So, you know, that is like a decent value for money whiskey when it kind of starts to sort of get good, in my opinion. You can get decent, cheaper whiskies for sure, but let's go ahead and open this one up and actually have a taste of it. It's definitely the kind of whiskey where I'm going to go and buy another bottle now this one is almost finished. And I'm going to enjoy that one again because, you know, it's just my go-to. And I'm sure once you guys try it, you'll have, you know, hopefully you'll agree. So firstly, you guys can see it's got this beautiful amber sort of mahogany color to it. That's actually what attracted me to it in the first place. I was like, oh wow, that's a really dark whiskey. Yeah, not colored at all. Then if you go ahead and give that a smell, you're going to get an immediate vanilla sort of oakiness smell to it. A very sweet, creamy vanilla smell. And that is reminiscent of bourbon ryes. So, you know, you'll probably get that in most of them. It's a sort of distinguishing characteristic if you've never had one of these before. But I also, you know, I really like that as something to find and drink in a whiskey. So it's quite a sweet, creamy sort of butterscotch smell to it. You can see as well if you just tilt it away from the glass like so, you get that kind of like oily residue on the side. It's quite a thick, creamy sort of beast, which I appreciate. It's got this pleasant leathery smell to it, and kind of, you can get the toasted oak as well if you're sort of attuned to that. So let's go ahead and have a taste. Oh, it's thick, creamy, espresso beans. It's got this sort of spicy pepper sort of taste to it. Kind of like a heat that hits you. Obviously, when I say spicy, if you're new to watching these whiskey review videos, I don't mean it's like hot like a chili pepper. It's like a nice sort of warmth to it, a nice sort of Christmas spice that you might have. It's also got this cereal sort of sweetness to it, kind of like a bread, like a sweet wheat bread. Or if you've ever, if you like, you can try this as well. You get some bread and leave it in your mouth and let your like saliva sort of digest it. You kind of get this weird sort of sweet sort of sensation, sort of taste in your mouth. That's kind of what it's like. It's kind of like that cereal sweetness that comes through in the whiskey. And the whiskey has a long aftertaste to it, and it's very enjoyable. It's kind of like a sweet, lingering taste of that sort of cereal bread sort of taste, and then you get this warmth of toasty oak spiciness, and it's very enjoyable. It lingers in your mouth even after you've had it, and I actually think it goes very well with chocolate as well. If you guys have some chocolate and this, and you just chill out on the sofa with, you know, a little bit of Last Kingdom or whatever TV Netflix series you're watching, it's a really nice thing to do, and that's like very much how I got into it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of water to it, and we'll see if that brings out any flavors. I recommend if you're new to trying this whiskey, then what you should do is add a little bit of water to it just to take the edge off. So that's how much whiskey we have right now, and I'm about to add this much water to it, as you guys can see. And what you're going to look for in the whiskey now is kind of like this sort of foggy mist that's going to appear as the water mixes with the whiskey here. Rather hard to see on the camera, though. I find with lighter whiskies it's a little bit more visible. So if you're new to whiskey, after you've done that, what you're going to want to do is sort of get closer and closer with your nose until you can smell something. Don't put your nose right in there, otherwise you might just smell alcohol. And initially you will when you're trying to get used to this sort of experience. So you're sort of going to take it up to your nose closer and closer. And what you should smell is vanilla. That's kind of like the dead obvious one. You might also get some oak as well, though it took me a little while to pick out what that was. And it will as soon as you're starting out. So just try and go for the really basic smells that you know should be there. And you'll get that vanilla and maybe some oakiness. And it should smell sweeter to you if you could smell it before, obviously. Maybe you couldn't. Just keep adding water until you can actually smell it. And even water it down until you can palate it and taste something. Because sometimes drinking whiskey straight initially, for me, was just an assault to my senses and I just couldn't handle it. So you should be able to get the oakiness. The texture is still somewhat there as well, though the spiciness is a lot less. But again, if you are new to drinking whiskey and you water it down, you're still going to get that element of spiciness because, you know, even watered down, it's going to be quite a powerful sort of exposure to the whiskey for you. What I usually like to do when I drink it, by the way, is I like to take a sip initially and then swallow it, and then, you know, see what that experience is like. And then I take another sip and then I leave it in my mouth. I don't like, you know, I don't sort of mouthwash it against my the inside of my mouth, because that would like just obliterate my senses as well. And then what I might do after that, so I'm getting like different sort of responses each time I do this. Obviously, initially when you sip it, you can only do that once. After you've then swirled it around your mouth, you know, you've lost that initial experience that you got when you sip it, which is why the first time I try a whiskey, I always like to just sip a little bit, see what that experience is like, see what the aftertaste is like, and then go back again. Kind of just maneuver it gently around your mouth and see what that tastes like. And it's very different each time. That's why whiskey is so interesting. Each time I revisit it, this, for example, like this was actually a whiskey I tasted initially and loved. I just fell in love with it immediately, and I was like, wow, I found a whiskey I actually really like, and I think I could really enjoy whiskeys now. And then, you know, from there, I obviously really went into it and built up this YouTube channel just for fun to share my experiences with you guys. So let me know what you guys think about Woodford Reserve in the comment section, or if you have another rye you prefer. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you brought it for yourself and enjoyed it. Another one of my favorites is Talisker, which is like bang, 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 smoky enjoyment. It's like a bonfire in your mouth, man. It's so good. It's my favorite whiskey right now. But and that's a very different experience to this. So I mean, once you kind of open yourself up and allow your senses to adapt to what is what is initially very hard to get into, in my opinion. It took me maybe a month or two to acclimatize myself to actually understanding some of the flavors in a whiskey, and I'm still trying to figure them out today. You know, I'm no expert. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe and press that bell notification icon if you did, and then YouTube will let you know when I post a new whiskey review video for you guys to check out, and you can come and enjoy this experience with me. I'm going to be reviewing cheap things mainly, and also really dirt cheap and sort of mid-tier whiskies. In my opinion, you know, if you're spending more than 60 or so pounds a bottle, then you're kind of out of my price range, definitely, unless I'm just reviewing it in a small dram, in which case I can kind of tell you what the flavors are like a little bit. But whiskies in a bottle you can kind of keep revisiting and really start to understand and appreciate, because the flavor of a whiskey changes after you've had a meal, if you have it when you've not had food, and so on. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, and hope you enjoyed hanging out today. Goodbye.